Hello everybody, my name is KingStix. In this video, I will be showing and explaining why you shouldn't be defending your jungler's buffs, or at least in the very early game. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that, so just bear with me here. So at the start of the game, I really like controlling this bush because if you leave the base immediately and you run down mid, if they don't run down mid, they'll have no idea you're here unless they ward this bush, which is very uncommon because why would they? This is a very unusual bush. So unless you see them, you know for a fact they don't see you, you wait in the bush, and if they invade this way, you can either attack or leave or just watch. And if they invade this way, you can leave. It's just a really safe bush in general, so I like to wait here. I leave around the time it's ready for me to do my red buff. I wait for as long as possible. I could have left a little bit later, and I actually didn't know this because my team didn't put out any words. So first of all, my top laner should be keeping watch, and my bot lane should have laid a word over here in the tri-bush, especially when you have a Twitch on your team, since enemies love to invade your red buff whenever you play Twitch. And if you take a quick peek at the enemies, they were actually in these bushes, so this could have gone very poorly. Luckily, since they didn't know I was here and I crossed over, it didn't really give Morgana a chance to react and throw out a snare. So even though we didn't have vision, this bush is so safe that I wasn't really in harm's way. Only way I would have died is if they were all waiting in this bush, which would have been... We have the Fog of War back on. I'm going to do my red buff. And something that a lot of you need to understand is this is all fairly dependent on game knowledge. So I'm going to explain that knowledge to you right now. In League of Legends, in the current meta, for carrying as a jungler, you play a jungler that can take red buff and then gank. So whether that be Xin, Graves, Talia, Twitch, Jarvan, it doesn't matter. You pick something that can take red buff and then gank because it's just so strong. Being level 2 with red buff, ganking a level 1 laner. Most of the time they don't expect it, and even if they do, you can usually at least get a flash. So with that being said, I figured Graves would start on his red buff even though Poppy and my mid laner didn't ward. So I'm assuming he's here. However, I don't know for sure. So the fact that I don't know, I'm looking at the enemy bot lane. Now look, so I'm showing you this from my perspective. This is all black. This is what I can see right now. I was going to gank enemy bot lane regardless. So I saw Morgana had full mana, and I see she has full mana. Morgana and Zyra are both full mana, full HP. So what does that mean? Odds are they probably didn't leash. Whenever the bot lane leashes, at least one of them uses one spell typically, or they might eat one auto. So the fact that they're both full HP, full mana means they didn't leash. So based off of that logic, as you can see here, I'm pinging this that, hey, Graves started on his red buff. Poppy should be careful because if she shoves up, Graves can do red buff, gank her, scuttle blue. So this is very standard. Like I said, even if the enemy did start on blue, I would have known because of this. So what happens most often now is red buff into gank. So for Graves, it would be red buff into gank, then scuttle blue and just clear out my jungle. It's very standard stuff. For me, I'm going to do red buff, gank, scuttle, and go into the jungle. Why do I want to do scuttle, you may ask? The reason why I want to go for scuttle is because while I'm taking their blue buff, once I have scuttle and I'm leaving, it'll give me extra movement speed to help me get out. Even if Graves did start on blue buff, I would have done this gank. It wouldn't have mattered. And if he did start on blue, he wouldn't be able to contest me on Scuttle Crab since red is such a strong buff that if he did start blue, I could solo him even on Twitch, Twitch being the weaker champion. Fun fact. So if he did start blue, he'd have to forfeit Scuttle, then I would gank mid, take the other Scuttle, and then he'd be screwed. Same thing with me. If I were to start on blue and he start on red, I can't contest this Scuttle Crab because once again, he's got to have red buff and then he can just push me off both Scuttles. That's why you see junglers doing red buff, gank, scuttle, and then the enemy's jungle. It's just the safest route. It has the most reward with the least risk. So I do the gank. Even though they kind of knew it was coming, I still got the Xayah flash and got her really low. So I got her down to 180 HP, less than a third of her total health, and got her flash. So that's pretty much a free win for my bot lane. At this point, I don't know what's warded and what's not. I'm keeping my eyes open. Morgana throws a snare. I want to take scuttle to give myself a little bit more options. So once again, Poppy or my mid laner should have warded this bush just in case. If red does go for my blue, if I did see him going for this, I could go into his jungle with a lot more confidence. But in this case, I don't know for sure. I'm just barely confident. So what I'm going to do is go invisible, and I want to eat this plant. Using this plant's really good because if the mid laner tries to rotate, it doesn't let them. If they don't have this plant, it makes it very difficult for the mid laner to get in here because they have to go. They have to run all the way down here, which takes like 20 seconds. or they got a path all the way over here, which also takes forever. So I suggest using this plant. That's why I like to take Scuttle, because it puts me closer to this plant and it puts you in a really good spot. And what I also like to do, this is whether I'm Graves or Zinzao, is I like to ward this right here, because if the mid laner comes or if the jungler comes down, it gives me a lot of vision. And now you may be wondering, well, what if the enemy jungler does wolves first? Well, if they do wolves first, you have nothing to worry about because you'll already finish the blue by then. Duh. Right? And if they're trying to get to their blue as fast as possible because they know what's going on, or they're just guessing, well, guess what? They're going to walk through here because this is the fastest route. And then the moment they walk here, you're going to see them with your ward even before they see that the plant's gone. Fun fact. All right, so I'm in here now, and why I'm doing this, I'm keeping a close eye on the bot lane. Since Lissandra has mid shoved, I'm not too worried about mid, and then watch what happens. So immediately I see Morgana's missing, and in my head I'm like, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then like she was gone for 3 or 4 seconds, and then figure for a fact she's coming over here. So I kite the buff down towards the exit, towards my Scuttle Crab. So even if she does snare me, God forbid it lands, and the AD carry comes, mid comes, I can reach the Scuttle and get out safely. So that's why I kite it down to here. I juke the snare. I'm like, you know what, bitch, you're level 1. You're going to try to fight me. This is what's going to happen. And that's the title of this video. This is why you do not try to contest the enemy jungler at your jungler's buff, because it is just, in general, it never turns out, especially if the enemies are as good as you. You should not do what this Morgana is doing right now. Because once again, the jungler will be level 2. As a laner, you'll be level 1. My laners are level 2 because I gave them the advantage by ganking. By ganking this, I gave them lane pressure by doing damage, getting sums, and by doing that, it allows them to push and get the level 2 faster. So this bitch is only level 1 because they haven't killed very many minions yet. So by her trying to fight me, that's not going to end well. You'll see. Okay, and at this point, once again, my ward saw Vladimir, so I know exactly where Vlad is. Lissandra's on her way as well because she's... So I am lucky in a way that Lissandra is actually a higher level than Vladimir. Now, if she was the same level as Vladimir, it wouldn't really have mattered. I mean, she could have done just as much as him, if not more, because Vlad's pretty weak in his first couple of levels. So it just happens to be extra good for us that she did get the pushing advantage. But I also figured whenever I did this maneuver, that worst case scenario, Lissandra should be a higher level and have a pushing advantage over Vlad. And let's watch. So 80 carries missing now. Zaya's coming. Morg's coming. I leave the buff. If I stay here, I'm going to die, because my bot lane can't get here fast enough. So I got to leave the buff and help with the Vladimir issue. Now, you might be asking, well, what if Vladimir didn't move? Then what? Now, if Vladimir didn't move, I would try to stay on blue for as long as possible. My bot lane would back me up, and then the enemy bot lane would miss out on a minion wave. Now, it would have been good if Zilean were to drop a bomb or two on these minions to help shove them into the turret, so that way if the enemies do come, they'll miss out on wave, and if they stay, they'll lose buff and time, etc. But in this case, since Vlad came, I'm just going to push him off. And I believe we pick up the kill here. Level 2 jungler can't compete. I E him. I take a little bit of damage, but it's fine. Graves is crossing through now. I saw he had 12 CS, so he's leached a little bit of minion XP. He should be level... Right now, he technically should be level 2 with 12 CS, but if you leech, I believe, 2 minion XP, even without... You don't have to kill them or anything. It'll give you enough XP to make you level 3. So that's why he's level 3 right now. But once again, he can't really cross through us. And the enemy bot lane just wasted a whole lot of time trying to fight us. And they put themselves farther behind in gold and CS by Xayah roaming. And by Morgana roaming, they put themselves... Morgana is still level 1 for Pete's sake, and Xayah only has 4 CS. What my plan is here is I just want to heal up by using my smite on the big raptor and killing it. And I would like to also get level 3. So I believe I think I get 3 here. Okay, yeah, so I get level 3. Graves is bucking with me. What my plan is to do raptors while Graves does his blue, and then I'll kill Graves on his blue since my bot lane has pressure now since the enemies tried to mess with me. If the enemies didn't mess with me, I would have gotten the blue for free. Since they did mess with me, I had to back off a bit and just play off the situation. But Graves, he actually tries to fight me in my jungle, which is crazy. Because once again, I already developed this pressure that the enemies made even more pressure upon themselves by trying to stop me. So in this case, Graves comes for me. He's going to get himself hard pinched. He came in my jungle after we killed his mid laner. Absolutely insane. Bear in mind, this is high diamond, high win rates. Graves goes down. Darius teleports way before our Poppy's even here. But you'll just see how this plays out. So the enemies basically can't compete because once again, their bot lane's behind from my gank. plus they're behind from roaming to the buff. By trying to defend the buff, they put themselves behind in CS, gold, and levels, thus allowing us to make this play. So I do go down here, but I get off quite a bit of damage before I do, and it allows my teammates to get double buffs. I believe Lissandra got the kill on Graves. Anyways, guys, that is why you don't contest a buff. There's really no situation where you would actually contest this buff in the early game unless your jungler did their red buff straight towards their blue. Now, if your jungler is doing red straight into blue, then you might loop around, only if you had pressure, which wouldn't be possible, since the enemy jungler would be doing red buff gank bot, which would lose you bot pressure. So theoretically, bot lane should never, if you do red buff gank, bot lane should never be able to rotate into the blue buff here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Even if the enemy jungler does come, it could turn into a solo situation. So if you are the stronger character, then you can make it work. If not, you can play off of that. But the way it's supposed to work is your top or your mid laner is supposed to ward this bush. So while I was doing red buff and ganking, if the enemy jungler did invade, I'd see it 100%. If not, I would assume they were just doing red buff into blue, in which case I would just do the red buff gank scuttle, then I would gank mid and then take the other scuttle. And so if there was jungler started blue, he would like do blue. He can't contest scuttle since I have red buff, so he would just clear up, and then I'd be ganking mid doing scuttle, and since he still doesn't have his red yet, I could take the next scuttle. I understand that everybody learns differently, so hopefully this second example will give you guys a different perspective on what we're talking about here. So once again, I see them both enemies in the bot lane, so I know they didn't leash since they got here early. They're both full mana, both full HP. I'm 99% certain they didn't leash. I come in for the gank. Very simple. My laners match them. Whether or not Grace started on here is irrelevant because I was going to gank this no matter what. I give my laners pressure by getting Xayah very, very low. They have to retreat, which allows my laners to push wave to rush level 2, which gives them even more pressure. Low health, level 2 first. So they keep pressuring. They're down in CS, they're down in gold, they're down in XP. At this point, I can take Scuttle, which would be right here. So now I got Scuttle Crab, big boy. And then I can simply just move my way up. Morgana's a cunt. She follows me. So now, like I said, there is no winning for them at this point because I'm level 2 with red buff. They're behind. I can easily push her off. Like, honestly, what are her autos going to do? And the main thing I want to illustrate with this perspective is, I'm not even going to show you the top laners. That doesn't matter. I'm not going to show you Graves. We know he's not over here. Their bot lane versus my bot lane. Their mid versus my mid and me. So theoretically, they're behind. Theoretically, they don't have summoners, or I killed one of them. And I have red buff, and I'm level 2. They're trying to fight a 3v4 when we also have a red buff and they're behind. That is why trying to defend your buff as the bot laners defending this buff is so bad and can a lot of the times actually lose you the game. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you out. My name is KingStix, and seriously though, stop trying to defend your jungler's blue buff when you're level 1. Peace.